Hi, welcome to the next installment where I read to you from the Secret Doctrine and explain parts of it. This is Tina from Tina Heals. Check out my body of work. So now moving on to the next part. So we've seen how the true manuscripts have been hidden and they will come out, but not yet. It is maintained furthermore that every sacred book of that kind, whose text was not sufficiently veiled in symbolism, or which had any direct references to the ancient mysteries, after having been carefully copied in cryptographic characters, such as to defy the art of the best and cleverest paleographer, who was also destroyed to the last copy, during Akbar's reign, some fanatical courtiers, displeased at the emperor's sinful prying into the religions of the infidels. So the Islamic people consider everyone who is not Islamic to be infidels. Themselves help the Brahmanas to conceal their manuscripts. So basically Akbar was very open-minded. He introduced his religion called Dini Ilahi, which incorporated the best aspects of every single religion like Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism. And he called scholars from all over the world, said, come study here, let us explore, let us understand. So his interest in these religions must have troubled his courtiers and people in power, in the Mughal era, and that is why they actually helped a lot of Brahmanas who wanted to hide their manuscripts. So they worked hand in hand and they hid all of this away, so Emperor Akbar could not access all this information to give it out to the public, and this is clearly stated by Blavatsky. Now, such was Badauni. We've heard of Badauni, the Arabic writer and philosopher historian who wrote the Muntakhab ul-Tawarik. Okay, forgive me for my pronunciation, but that is His Majesty Religious Inquiries into the Sects of these Infidels. This is what he wrote. Who cannot be counted, so numerous they are, and who have no end of revealed books, as they, the Shamanas and Brahmanas, surpass other learned men in their treatises on morals and on physical and religious sciences, and reach a high degree in their knowledge of the future, in spiritual power and human perfection. They brought proofs based on reason and testimony, and inculcated their doctrine so firmly that no man could now raise a doubt in His Majesty, even if mountains were to crumble to dust, or the heavens were to tear asunder. So this is what has been translated by Max Muller in his book Introduction to the Science of Religion, page 90 to 92. So this work was kept secret and was not published till the reign of Jahangir. So essentially the understanding of Hinduism sort of really opened Akbar's eyes. He was very impressed by the high metaphysical understanding that the Sanatan Dharma had, right? So now, Badauni, who had an undisguised horror for Akbar's mania for idolatrous religions, right? Moreover, in all the large and wealthy lamaseries, there are subterranean crypts and cave libraries, cut in the rock, whenever the Gompa and the Lakhang are situated in the mountains. Beyond the western Saidam, in the solitary passages of Kyunlun, is western Tibet, there are several such hiding places along the ridge of Altin Tag, whose soil no European foot has ever trodden so far. There exists a certain hamlet, lost in a deep gorge, It is a small cluster of houses, a hamlet rather than a monastery, uh, with a poor-looking temple in it, with one old lama, a hermit living nearby to watch it. Pilgrims say that the subterranean galleries and halls under it contain a collection of books, the number of which, according to the accounts given, is too large to find room even in the British Museum. So by this you understand that there are places in Tibet, there are places in India probably also, where we hide, where the ancients have hidden all these texts. Okay, and they cannot be accessed. They are not easily accessible. They are hidden in plain sight, and only the adepts and the lamas know of them. You and me cannot reach those places. Okay, so that's again something to think about. A lot of this is hidden. All this is very likely to provoke a smile of doubt, but then before the reader rejoices, the reader rejects the truthfulness of the reports, let him pause and reflect over the following well-known facts. The collective researches of the Orientalists, and especially the labors of late years of the students of comparative philology and the science of religions, have led them to ascertain as follows: an immense, incalculable number of MSS, and even printed works known to have existed are now to be found no more. They have disappeared without leaving the slightest trace behind them. Were they works of no importance, they might, in the natural course of time, have been left to perish, and their very names would have been obliterated from human memory. But it is not so. For as now ascertained, most of them contain the true keys to works still extant and entirely incomprehensible. So for the greater portion of their readers, without these additional volumes of commentaries and explanations, such are, for instance, the works of Lao Tse, the precursor of Confucius. So all these books that we have, all the texts, Mahayana, Hinayana, the Vedas, the Avestas, the Zendavesta, and all of that, I mean, that is the software, but you cannot access that without the password or authentication. And all these volumes and volumes that have now been lost, actually only they can help unlock these mysteries. What's written off in the Bible, what's written off in the Quran, what's written off in the Rig Veda. Okay, we can only understand the true meaning of these only when we look with all the keys, and all the keys are in these lost manuscripts. They are hidden. They're hidden by the Arhats for the right time, I guess, when they will reveal to humanity when humanity is ready. Now, he is said to have written 930 books on ethics and religions, and 70 on magic, 1,000 in all. Okay, Lao Tse. His great work, however, the heart of his doctrine, the Tao Te Ching, the sacred scriptures of the Tao Tse, has in it, as Stanislaus Julian shows, only about 5,000 words, hardly a dozen of pages. Yet Professor Max Muller finds that the text is unintelligible without copious commentaries, so that Mr. Julian had to consult more than 60 commentators for the purpose of his translation, the earliest going back as far as the year 163 BC, not early as we see. So there's a little note over here when we spoke of Lao Tse. It says, if lastly we turn to China, we find the religion of Confucius is founded on the 5 king and the 4 Shu books. S-H-U, okay, Shu books. In themselves of considerable extent and surrounded by voluminous commentaries, without which even the most learned scholars would not venture to fathom the depth of their sacred canon. Okay, so again and again she is saying that all these texts, yes, they exist. Yes, you can buy them and you can read them. But the true understanding will only come when you understand its sole doctrine. And the sole doctrine is hidden from humanity at this stage. Little by little it's coming out. But the most of these manuscripts, these MSS, they are hidden. Okay. Now, during the 4 centuries and a half that preceded this earliest of the commentators, there was ample time to veil the true Lao Tse doctrine from all but his initiated priests. The Japanese, amongst whom are now to be found the most learned of the priests and followers of Lao Tse, simply laugh at the blunders and hypotheses of the European Chinese scholars. And tradition affirms that the commentaries to which our Western sinologues have access are not the real occult records, but intentional veils, and that the true commentaries, as well as almost all the texts, have long since disappeared from the eyes of the profane. So the secret doctrine is hidden, and it requires a key. And the key is its very soul tattva or soul doctrine. If one turns to the ancient literature of the Semitic religions, to the Chaldean scriptures, their elder sister and instructress, if not the fountainhead of the Mosaic Bible, the basic and starting point of Christianity, what do the scholars find? To perpetuate the memory of the ancient religions of Babylon, to record the vast cycle of astronomical observations of the Chaldean Magi, to justify the tradition of their splendid and eminently occult literature, what now remains? Only a few fragments said to be by Berosus. So all the Chaldean scriptures, all the basic core ancient traditions of the Semitic religions, all that is lost, Even the ancient religions of Babylon, all of that is lost. Okay, what we have is just a few fragments written by Berosus. These, however, are almost valueless, even as a clue to the character of what has disappeared, for they passed through the hands of His Reverence the Bishop of Caesarea, that self-constituted censor and editor of the sacred records of other men's religions. And they doubtlessly bear to this day the mark of his eminently veracious and trustworthy hand. For what is the history of this treatise on the once grand religion of Babylon? So everything about Babylon has been misconstrued. What has been told to us is has nothing of its true glory. Written in Greek by Berosus, a priest of the temple of Belus for Alexander the Great, from the astronomical and chronological records preserved by the priests of the temple and covering a period of 200,000 years. It is now lost. In the 1st century BC, Alexander Polyhistor made a series of extracts from it, also lost. Eusebius 270 to 340 AD, used these extracts in writing his Chronicon. The points of resemblance, almost of identity, between the Jewish and the Chaldean scriptures made the latter most dangerous to Eusebius in his role of defender and champion of the new faith, which had adopted the Jewish scriptures and with them an absurd chronology. It is pretty certain that Eusebius did not spare the Egyptians synchronistic tables of Manetho, so much so that Bunsen charges him with mutilating history most unscrupulously. This has happened time and again. When the heathen religions have come in contact with Christian missionaries, the true teachings have been hacked. Even the Vedas have not been translated correctly by Max Muller. Okay, there is a lot of addition, negation, and it's true, the true essence of Vedas cannot be understood by its translation. Alright, so it's the same thing with so many other structures, you know. So many other religions, the same thing has happened. The church has desecrated. We know Alexander the Great destroyed most of Persia and all the Persian texts. So this is happening. The older West is actually lost. The old Western language of the Zoroastrians and so much of their culture is lost in that. So little by little we lose touch with the true essence of all teaching. Little by little, as time progresses, our third eye gets more and more calcified and our spiritual body becomes more and more paralyzed and misinterpretations form. So join me for the next segment. See you soon.